I was called by Dr. Fetuga, who has become a very good sister. And she said to me, Mr. Kolade, are you sitting there? I said, well, I'm standing. And she said, unfortunately, you've tested positive for COVID-19. I must confess, that moment I felt sick from my guts. And I turned off the phone and sat back, and I was sweating. I had to lay down flat on the floor to regain some sort of sanity and consciousness. After like 5-10 minutes, I was better. I was breathing better, and I just picked up the phone and called her and said, okay, you know what? I'm good to go. Send the ambulance. I got you on my journey to Marrakesh, London, and Dubai, and back to Lagos. I had done a 9-day trip across those 3 cities. So I have a strong feeling from my calculation that I must have picked it up at the airport coming back, because I felt sick 12 days after my arrival, which would have been the incubation period for it. So yes, I'm very sure I picked it from one of those airports.
I guess from a really young age, I always saw myself working in fashion. My career personally started as a fashion stylist, so I was very much eager to kind of tell stories through fashion and style. So we officially launched in 2017, so before in November. We've worked with a number of different organizations and brands in order for us to provide opportunities and capacity building for entrepreneurs and creatives in fashion. So we typically do a lot of training, we provide mentorship, we also support entrepreneurs with funding and just general enterprise support, because we basically found there's so many gaps in the industry in terms of when a creative has an idea to when they want to launch and potentially scale a business. So the assembly really exists to kind of be that big brother or big sister, hold your hand through that process of trying to grow your venture in Nigeria or anywhere else in the world. When the pandemic hit, I mean, I was following like everybody else when it started in China and when it started spreading. I remember the first case that was reported in the UK, and so we were just watching from afar and just like, oh, this is insane, this is crazy. But I don't think we believed or saw that it would come to Nigeria or at least come to Africa. And I think when we had the first couple of cases in Nigeria, you know, I remember my team, like I think they probably thought I was like super paranoid, because every week I was like, guys, we have 1 case, we have 2 cases, we have 10 cases. I was really kind of like up to date what was happening. And we kind of, I think before, like 2 weeks before the lockdown, we decided to work from home. We raised some donations and we redirected those funds to our community. So we had said, okay, look, we don't have a really massive budget, but then we need to produce PPE. And I think one of the things that I really admire about people that we worked with, it wasn't really about a money situation, it was about how can we help.
The house has always been my safe haven. I've always felt safe in my father's house. No matter what happens, I'll tell you, don't worry, when you get to my father's house, everything will be solved. If I get into trouble, I know when I go back home, there's always somebody there. So, you know, even though I lost my father 15 years ago, it still felt like a safe haven because my father built that place like that. It feels like a fortress against all of the virus and everything, you know.
All right. Amen. And you too. Amen. Amen. And you too. Inshallah.
Community service for me is not alien. Anybody who knows me well, probably this is the first time I have to be on air for anything like this, but community service for anybody who knows me is not new to me. I was born into it. My father, growing up, whenever you come to our house, same as my mom, if you come in crying, you always live with a smile. Even if my father didn't have whatever it is you wanted, he would always make sure that he comes through for you. You are in your house, you have no idea what you're going to have for breakfast. At 10 a.m. in the morning, Sometimes at 2 p.m. in the afternoon, you didn't even have dinner the night before. Then some stranger pops up with a bag. It's small, but you see the way it lights up people's face. You know, you have no idea what's popping up. You have no idea what is coming to you. Somebody just walks up to you and like, that's a bag. It lights people's faces up. I had contact with some people who, when you give them something, you will see them burst into tears. And as much as I try not to be an emotional person, it hits a part of me. It's these things would not make you stop.
My wife, on the other hand, she was a skeptic. Even when they called me to say I was positive, she kept on saying, "You're not. You were sick, I treated you, and you're better. Don't go to any hospital." So I said to her, I have to go because we have elderly, aged people in the house, and we really don't want them to fall sick. Yes, baby? She just whispered to me to tell you guys, and she's not scared of COVID because she's keeping herself safe always. So how did you feel the day I told you I was negative and I came back the next day to say I was positive?
I cried. Literally, you know. I'm like, oh, okay, the worst is over, negative, and then the next day.
Called you the next morning.
Yeah, and you're like, I need to tell you something. The news, yeah, the news is not so good. I'm thinking, what can it ever be? And then it was positive again. Oh,
but I remember the Sunday that I called you and I was dancing to, I can't remember, the Lagos State brought an artist to the place.
Yeah, and you called everyone. You called the kids in London. Yeah.
So I did like a 4-way video.
Yeah, and then, but Akayode.
And everybody were dancing with me.
Dancing. I knew you were going to come back. I mean,
but when I came back, you did thank me for doing the video.
But yeah, because you know we started to get positive. The importance of it.
We spent a lot of time trying to understand, okay, what is the standard for reusable barrier face masks? So is it cotton? Is it polypropylene? Like we were trying to find ways of creating or trying to replicate, you know, the clinical face masks that were available, but they were too expensive because the moment the pandemic hit, supermarkets like doubled and quadrupled their prices. And honestly, like for the average, you know, man, woman, it just didn't make any sense.
My name is Oloriboye Ajayi. I am the Director of Operations here at the Assembly Hub. So one of the things we've had to do as a business is look at the sustainability of where we source for our fabrics. So of course we've had to look at the local options, which have actually proven to be better for us because that way they're closer and we're able to get them when we need them and also in the quantities we need them. At the moment, we're sourcing from Funtua Textile Mill, which is in Kaduna. We also get some of our trimmings and some accessories from, you know, out of the country, but only when necessary because we're also trying to push for source in Nigeria, not just made in Nigeria. The recommended fabric, according to Center for Disease Control, CDC, is to use cotton fabric. Why? Because that blocks out as much of the virus as possible. And of course, we say to people that in Nigeria, cotton is actually somewhere in the north, and that's where we actually source these cotton fabrics from. So yes, we are going by the standard set by CDC, which is cotton.
We had like cash flow challenges in the first few months when the pandemic and the lockdown started because we had to put projects on hold, and so that obviously changed or shifted the timelines for when we were being paid for certain services. Obviously, we also work with a lot of entrepreneurs, so if they're not being paid, then we're not being paid because, you know, they can't pay for certain services, or, you know, we had to just do things like, you know, create payment plans for people.
And some of these deliveries wait till tomorrow. I mean, like some of them can be 48 hours, right?
Yeah, they can be 48 hours. It could be, but then, like I said, if it depends. I know you guys can be swift, but then the priority areas, like I said, remains the outskirts of Lagos. So if we can do the outskirts of Lagos first, If your guys can quickly pop back here and pick up the ones for the other areas, then we could do that.
Okay.
Satisfaction comes on a daily basis, in the sense that for every person who you have been able to help or assist, you know you have put the food on one hungry table. There's one less hungry person, you know. The components of the relief package, initially it was rice, 5 kg rice, tomato paste, you have the pepper and the tomato oil, and then that was it. But then over time, we added pasta to some. It was rice, tomato paste, pasta. Some we added noodles instead of the pasta. Some we gave salt. Some we gave beans to, you know. And then some people was just fruits.
For the long term, it's safe to say that maybe eventually we'll probably have a foundation, because, you know, community service is like a part of our family. We have people at one point or the other giving out things, maybe during Ramadan, during Christmas, and then of course during pandemic, you know, we also had to do our quota. I was never concerned about finances, so I had an emergency fund personally for myself. And before the pandemic, I had shopped for my family. I shopped for about 5 months, so I knew that my food would last for 5 months. So when they kept on, you know, postponing the opening date, I was never concerned because we had enough food. So the beauty was being able to touch people and knowing that they appreciated it. You know, the kind of prayers you would get, you would know that you've done something in their lives.
The most amazing thing for me when I was discharged was that you all came to the hospital and I had to drive behind you guys.
And then the doctor said, "Oh, madam, still give him 5 days. No, you know, no coming together. 5 days." And I was trying to hug you outside and like, remember, 5 days, I'm happy. I can't do this.
And your daughter said,
"Oh, she ran away.
Stay away from me for 7 days.
Yes, that's what she said. Daddy, stay away.
So and literally that's the only stigmatization I ever came across.
Oh, man,
only one. No other person stigmatized me. And she just said 7 days. And you know, what was amazing was that on the 7th day, she came upstairs, woke me up, and said, "It's 7 days now, can I have a hug?"
Yeah.
And I thought, oh wow, this old woman that calls herself my baby.
Told you, that girl, she gave us football age. She's older than she is, you know.
I also want to thank you because this COVID, the reality of this COVID, assuming you were stuck abroad, that would have been very difficult for me to have done. But it's the reality, and I know you were still lamenting that there's a possibility that will continue from September.
People would pray for you, and then you would know that they were heartfelt prayers. They were coming from a place that you probably would never understand in years to come, because you probably would never have to be in that shoe.
Everybody needs to go back to the drawing board. You have to think of how your business is going to survive. You know, you have to think of how you as a person is going to survive. You have to think of how to manage bills. You have to think of how to take care of your people. You have to think of how to take care of your immediate community. You've been doing it before.
The thing that I can take away from this experience and the past 3 months, I think is just like there's this spirit of like unity that I haven't seen in a long time, or I haven't really experienced in this way before. We've worked with so many people. Like, we've all had a common goal and we've worked together in a very short space of time under pressure. Like, imagine like living through this whole pandemic, not knowing what's going to happen tomorrow, having things disrupted, yet everybody has just been positive just to make sure that we get through this together, sharing information, sharing contacts, sharing lessons. It goes beyond yourself or your business. It's more about, okay, what role do we play in this situation?
Please, it's still very much out there. Social distancing is extremely important. Only go out when it is essential. I can sit down today laughing with my wife and having a great time only because I'm alive. If, touch wood, anything had happened to me and I died,
Which one is touch wood?
touch wood means God forbids.
Oh, okay.
That's a British thing.
Touch wood?
Touch wood.
Okay.
Before you say something that is negative, you say touch wood.
Okay.
Like God forbid that you,
Right.
Ijebus, will say.
Okay.
Lord, my jail. If I had died from COVID due to carelessness and not believing that COVID-19 was there, we won't be having this laugh. This interview won't be happening. And life is sweet, life is interesting, but life can be short if you're not careful.